for an evening filled with paranormal, special guests, interviews, haunting stories, creatures of the unknown, and tales that will chill you to the bone. Brought to you by the UPRN Network and Pittsburgh Paranormal Society. Take a walk into the night with Shawn Kelly.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Shawn Kelly on Into the Night on UPRN Radio 105.3 New Orleans. The UFO Paranormal YouTube, UFO Paranormal / UFO Paranormal. And what a night it was. What a week it was. Like I told you last week that I was went to see my doctor, okay? And he prescribed different medication for me, and it seems to be working, you know, a little bit better. We got Joe Montaldo next to me, you know. Look at that beautiful mug on him. But yeah, so I was at the doctor's, and slowly but surely I'm coming out of this depression. You know, I mean, I have a lot of good days and then I have a lot of bad days. So still ugly. Hey, Patrick. Yeah, I'm ugly. Everybody, that's my brother, Patrick Kelly there. Yeah, and I'm still ugly. But yeah, so did everybody have a nice Easter? You know, I sure did. You know, got to cook Easter dinner, and blessings to you, Andrew. Blessings to you. And it was great. You know, it was me, my mom, my brother. We sat around, watched TV, ate, you know, ham, and I made macaroni salad, which, you know, I didn't cut the onions up too much, too big, you know. So that was the only bad thing about my macaroni salad, you know. So I just, and, you know, let me tell you something about, you know, this Easter week, especially where I work at. Now, an Easter tradition, everybody buys a ham, okay? And my store, we ordered the exact same amount of hams that we did back from last year. Well, you know what? No one bought a ham this year. And either A, it's because no one has money, or B, nobody was just in the mood for ham. And to be honest with you, I was a little disappointed in it because ham is a tradition and to a lot of families. So with the people who didn't, you know, buy ham or had something else, you know, I hope their Easter was great. Everybody out there who is dealing with a little bit of mental illness or any type of anything that's going on in your life, I want you to know that Columbia Marin, Junior, hi Junior, and that I'm praying for you. I really am, you know, and I think about you every day. And I hope you're getting help that you need to get help with, you know. Last week we had Michelle on and we talked about Earth Angels. And it was a very, very good show. You know, I opened up a lot. I opened up to a lot of things that went on in my life. And at first I used to be really shy about it and not tell anybody because, you know, not embarrassed, but, you know, I was a very closed person. But lately, you know, it just seems like ever since I started, you know, doing the radio show, I've been opening up a little bit more, you know. When I express myself and tell things, you know, about me and about my past, you know, it's not so much that, you know, I want to have an ego or I have some kind of thing to get across, like, oh, look at him, feel sorry for Shawn, blah, blah, blah. Hold on. Oh, I don't want you to. I'm just sharing, my experience with you. So expressing myself, getting myself out there to people so you can actually know who I really am and who you are talking to on Tuesday nights at 11 o'clock on the Into the Nights radio show. So, as everybody knows, it's baseball season. I don't know if there's a lot of people out there that have that are baseball fans. My favorite team in the National League, of course, is the Pittsburgh Pirates. And over in the American League, I like the Cleveland Indians. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit more about myself. So I really was like kind of wondering what I wanted to talk about tonight. So tonight's a night, whatever's going to come out of my mouth, it's going to come out. There's a little bit of stuff that I do want to talk about. I learned from a friend that there was a couple places near Philadelphia. I think it's New Hope, Pennsylvania, and Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania. And there's some pretty interesting, but later on I'll get into that. But our last show, the show before on Chasing Prophecy, the girls decided to take a night off, and it was me and Jason. And there was a lot of things that I learned. We had a guest on, and he explained that, he knew a lot about energy, and it really, really opened my eyes, about energy and how it works. But what really, really, took me aback or like really impressed me was, when people have that near-death experience, they say that they see the light. But I come to find out tonight from a guy who works with this energy, our guest, he was saying that, when you die, your brain dies down and, it sees a light. Okay. And what's happening is your brain is not focusing on that light, on something. Your brain isn't there to focus on something. So that tells me, now I'm not knocking everybody. Okay. There are some people that might have seen God, seen Jesus, seen their relatives. You know what? That's cool. But that's the spiritual side of paranormal. But also look at it to where on the scientific field side of it, where all they do is see a light. And it was a really interesting show. Just listening to it, didn't have too many skeptics. We were supposed to get a couple skeptics on, but they never showed up. But what's your thoughts? Anybody out there? What's your thoughts on the paranormal? Are you skeptic about it? Are you more into the scientific part of the paranormal? Please feel free to put a comment in, or if you're afraid to comment in, or else you can't comment, and then what you need to do is go to Facebook, the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page, and just leave us a message, and then we'll be sure, to get back to you. If you have any hauntings, or if you had any experiences, tell us, send us a message there, and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, we can actually, put you on one of our shows, either Chasing Prophecy or my show, Into the Night. So, think about it. I would like to hear from my viewers and my listeners, and just see, what their thoughts are. Again, if you want to, are you skeptic, or are you in the scientific, or do you believe in the paranormal? Please leave us a message, or, say something in the comments, be happy to hear from it. Now, as I was telling you before, a friend of mine that I work with, he was telling me about a couple of haunted places that are out east in New Hope. Okay. Um, and there's a bridge out there. Okay. And they call it the Crybaby, the Van Sant Crybaby Bridge. Okay. Now, the backstory behind that is that there was a young mom there who just had a baby, and she was shunned by her parents, her family, and her friends. And what she did was she took her baby to the bridge and she threw her baby over the river, over the bridge into the river, and the girl hung herself. Now, I did a little bit of research on this, and and it's like a 50-50 situation up there on that bridge. There's half of people that do. Well, back to it real quick. It's like if you walk the bridge at night, you can actually hear a little baby cry. You know, um, my friend who's been there said also that they were parked on the bridge or underneath the bridge somehow. And they actually heard something jump upon his roof, you know. And as I was reading the different stories, I did look up the stories because I thought it was interesting, and there was a lot of people, that claimed that happened. Now, a lot of people who are from that area, the New Hope, Pennsylvania, that around there, they claim that there is none of that happens. And you know what? That's okay. Um, some people are afraid of if that legend is true or not. Um, but reading the story about the mom, that's crazy. That is it's not crazy. I guess at the time, if it is supposed to happen, now this is backstory. Um, what would drive a woman to do that? They say she was, shunned by her family and friends, but to actually do that's crazy. To me, that is. But it all depends, again, on the state of mind, the state of mind that she was in. But there have been some places here that I have investigated, bridges and tunnels and stuff like that, to where that are definitely haunted. There's a good one right here. It's called the Green Man's Tunnel, and it's over, I want to say Finleyville. I think it's Finleyville or out South Park. And the backstory behind it, now this is a true story. Okay, the Green Man. It was a guy, I forget what his name was, but he was working on the wires on the poles, and he got zapped with electricity. This is a true story. And he survived it, but his face deformed. He turned, his skin would glow green. And he was alive for a while, and people would see him, and people actually thought he was a ghost of some sort. Now, I do remember that we did go over there. There's actually two tunnels. The tunnel on the right is called Corvette Tunnel. That, if you park your car in the middle of this tunnel, you can actually hear another car coming. I never experienced that, but I know that when I investigated the Green Man's Tunnel, then we got a lot of activity. We got a lot, not so much a lot of video, but we got a lot of orbs and mist and, stuff like that. Some K2 hits. Didn't get no EVP readings on that, but it's like a really, really creepy place to go to. Finleyville is an interesting place. At the time, there was a lot of Native Americans. I'm talking a long, long time ago, a long, long time in the early 1800s, stuff like that. But I do believe that there is a lot of Native American spirituality down there. There's a lot of Native American ghosts down there. And there's this one cemetery, I forget the name of it. If I did know the cemetery's name, I wouldn't tell you, because I could possibly get in trouble for saying that. But it is very, very haunted, and it's close to, I believe, an Indian burial ground. And I remember one time, this is when we first started that, when we went there and investigated. And what was crazy about this cemetery, that it was all on a hill, okay? And I mean, seriously, you had to walk up this big hill, to get to the top. And it was a big incline. And so I'm sitting there on the ground, and I'm doing, just doing my meditating, or, talking to spirits that were around there. And as I turned around, somebody took a picture, and you could see the outline of a headdress of an Indian, and that was creepy. That was a creepy cemetery. But we also got a lot of good evidence about it. A lot of people say that when you go to cemeteries, first of all, if you're going to investigate it in a cemetery, please get permission from the cemetery. Do not hop the fence whatsoever, because here's two things that's going to happen. If you hop the fence and you get busted, you're going to get arrested for trespassing. And second of all, what's going to happen is that you're going to make it hard for other real paranormal groups, to have to investigate it, because people would think that that we're in there. And even though we got the permission, people will call the police because we're in there, and it caused a lot of mayhem, if you want to say. It makes my group look pretty bad, that the police are coming up. And that has happened before. There's a cemetery out there somewhere out on Route 30. And it was an old cemetery. In fact, it was a really old cemetery. And what it did was it sat on the corner of a road. And in these cemeteries, the stones that we could make out to were back in the early 1700s, even before the Revolutionary War. And at that time, they were buried in wooden coffins, I guess. And as you go there, you could actually see the coffins sink, So the perfect outline on the ground, you can actually see that the caskets are sinking. But with, the deal is we got called, somebody called us, and the police came, and it was sitting on the corner. And that's like private. I don't think it was on a private land. But the police explained to me that the past Saturday before we got there, there's a bunch of kids doing drugs up there. That would be drinking beers and getting high there. And they said that they didn't have a problem with us being there. Okay. It's just that the neighbors were the people around who called, or, were concerned, so we had to leave. So at that time, the cops were pretty cool about it. In fact, they gave us other places to go to. And we took their lead. We went to a place where they told us to go, and yes, it was very haunted. Um, Again, I can't tell you where I went, you know, fearing I could get in trouble. Um, but it was pretty interesting. So whenever you decide to go out and investigate somewhere, make sure you go and you get permission before you go in. And if it's your first time going out on an investigation, please, please do not go out on your own. All right. Um, Bring somebody that knows what they're doing. So back to with the situation, back to where we were talking about. There was a guy, um, the guy I work with, right? He was telling me that there's another place out there in Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania. Okay, and it's called. I got to look at my notes here. It's called the Hex Hollow House. Okay, it's in Shrewsbury, PA. And November 27th, 1928, a man was murdered at his house. He was a farmer. Now, at the time, there was three Pennsylvania Dutch guys that were having, a string of bad luck. And and back, you know, back then they were, in the 20s, I guess they thought that this guy, what was his name here again? Um, his name was Nelson Riemeyer, and they thought he was a witch. So the three Pennsylvania Dutch guys went over there and they confronted him about it, and he wouldn't budge. They asked him, like, are you a witch? Did you put X on this? Why are we having all this bad luck? And he just wouldn't say a word. And all of a sudden, okay, they strangled him. And they strangled him and he died. But, these guys were like sadists, I guess, because they really, after he was dead, laying on the floor, they wanted to make sure that he was dead, that they deformed him. They just beat him up to a pulp. But they figured, okay, if we burn the house down, all right, it will lift the hex on him. And they thought they had the hex on him. It would lift the hex, and that was their state of mind at that time. And here's the crazy part about this whole thing. Okay, really, really crazy. They lit the house on fire, but the house never burned down. You can actually, they do have pictures on the internet. It shows you can actually see the old photos of how the old house, the sides were charred, but the whole house, back then, I guess their houses were made out or wood or stone or whatever. And the only thing he lost was like a little log cabin in the back of his house. Now, that's crazy, because as I was reading this story, okay, I was thinking to myself, if they lit it on fire and it didn't burn, was the guy a witch? Was the guy hexed? Did he, doing all these hexes that, the house was protected by, I guess you want to say evil, right? Or another question, or I thought that, well, if it wasn't evil that kind of like put that house down, wouldn't, because the house wouldn't burn due to the hexing, could have been some angelic being protecting the house from being burnt down. No one will ever know about it. But it was a fascinating story, and we'll probably never find out why it never did burn down. But the house is up for sale, if you want to Google it, and what is it? It's called the Hex Hollow House, and it's Shrewsbury, PA. You know, if you type in Hex Hollow, it'll tell you the whole deal about the story. But I thought it was a pretty interesting read, you know, and it's amazing how, you know, in my experience, how everything works in mysterious ways, you know, how life, you know, throws you curveballs. And is it paranormal? Is it not paranormal? You know, why did this happen to me? Is it fate? Is it coincidences? Who knows? Who knows what it is? I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that everything happens for a reason. Okay. And back to that house, there's probably a reason why it never burned down. Now, the family of, you know, Ron Reimeyer, you know, they took it and, you know, they actually, you know, fixed it up, make it livable, and it just become a nuisance. Not a nuisance, I should say, but probably took a toll on them trying to, you know, make it livable and stuff like that. But, you know, they decided to put it up for sale. I'd have to go out and look at it, but I have no money. I got no money. I want to travel when I retire. I got 7 years I can retire, so I do want to travel. But I don't know if anybody out there wants to buy a house. Check that out. Which brings my, you know, another thought to me. Anybody out there? My question to you is: would you live in a haunted house? Would you go buy a haunted house to live in a haunted house? Now, I talk to a lot of people, and I would have say like I talked to 10 people, but I talked to more. But 7 out of 10 said, yeah, they would. What would you do? You know, leave me a comment, you know, here on the show, or again, send me a message on the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page, and see if you would do it. Now, I would do it. Okay. And you know, and it's not the reason because I'm a paranormal hunter. And it's not because that I believe in ghosts, but I think it would be pretty interesting. And I will tell you this, everybody, you know, there were some overnight investigations where we slept at places that were haunted that we investigated. And it's the best sleep I ever got, you know. And what do we got there, Holly? I used to live in a house that was haunted for 10 years. Really, Hall? That's cool. Did anything happen? Was there anything bad happen? Can you tell a little bit about your house that you were in? But as we wait for a response from Holly, I would definitely and Tony, hi buddy, how you doing? And I know you're still awake. I know the feeling on that. But no, not me. Whenever I investigate a house, I sleep well. It's crazy. I mean, I only get 5 hours of sleep, you know, but I tell you what, it's the best 5 hours I ever get. Yeah, you did, Tony. You did. Yeah. And I'd like to get you on my show pretty soon, Tony, and we can talk some more about that. Yeah, we can talk about your last investigation too, bud. We can do that. Absolutely. But I would buy that house. I think it would be great, you know. Or, you know, I can do it the hard way and just buy any house and start remodeling it and probably piss off the ghosts that lived in the house because I remodeled the houses. You know, that's like one of the number one haunted reasons why a lot of places get haunted is because people remodel their houses, you know, because what happens is that there are ghosts, that live in that house. Could have been the prior people who used to live there, and we'll just go with that. And you come in and you see this green polka dotted blue wallpaper, okay, and you said, I don't want that in my house, and all of a sudden you tear it down. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose in the house, losing your keys or else stuff, getting smashed up, uh, stuff like that, So, but I prefer to have a house that's already haunted. Um, when I go to Gettysburg or when I go to any old towns, I look how beautiful. There's a little place, there's a street down in Washington, PA, not far from here, and the houses are huge and they're beautiful. Um, I wouldn't mind getting one of them. The only way doing that is hitting the lottery. But I'm getting up there in age. A lot of people say I'm not, but I am. So I'd rather travel. Well, Tony, what we got to do to have a picture that is uncirculated that will blow your mind, my buddy recently sent me. Sweet. When I get you on the show, maybe we can get my producer to put that show up when you're on that picture. So yeah, I would definitely live in a haunted house. Anybody else out there that would want to live in a haunted house or have their house has been haunted? And again, leave a comment or go to the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page and send us a message, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Now, you know that I'm a Gettysburg freak, right? I love going up to Gettysburg. And I've talked about these last two bridges maybe a month or so ago, and I'm going to bring it up again because it's really, really interesting. The first bridge I want to talk about, the name of the bridge, they call it the Suicide Bridge, but actually it's called the John Eisenhower Bridge. What's he got? Yeah, thumbs up to you, but John Eisenhower Bridge, and I do believe that there was a girl hung herself there, and it is an old bridge. In fact, I think a little bit of the history that it got knocked down due to some kind of like tornado, something that happened. It got knocked down, but they rebuilt it again. But it's only like a half a mile. You park in front, right by the bridge, and then you walk across the bridge. And there's like a little path that goes into a big yard, a real big yard, like a farm. And we were up there last year, and we did some investigating up there. And I tell you what, we got some really crazy K2 hits. We got some crazy pictures up there, and I'm just fascinated with that bridge. The bridge just has that eerie feeling. There's really no lights around it, and or nearby or anything. Maybe one spotlight at the end of it, but we had a lot of experiences, with people being pushed or not pushed on like a little tug or push or whatever you want to call it, but they actually heard voices, and a lot of hits on the K2. We did try to run some EVPs, but there were other people there investigating, and so it was hard for us to actually do an EVP session up there. But I mean, it really creeped me out. I don't really get creeped out that much about that. I have a K2 hit where I was sleeping and scared. Oh yeah, I used to get scared, but not no more. I find it interesting. And I'm glad you said that, Tony. Tony said he had a K2 hit where he was sleeping, that scared the crap out of him. And you know what? And I can understand that, but to me, if I'm there and I got the K2 going and it's hitting, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy. But I will want to share the story about a K2, um, and I never thought it would happen. We were at a house in South Park. Now, this is a true story. This is definitely a true story. I wouldn't tell a lie to anybody. So I'm going to tell you this is a true story. So we were at this house, and all my crew was out there investigating. And so I was sitting in a chair in the living room, and I had a K2 meter on the table. Okay. And it wasn't turned on, it was totally off. And I looked at the K2 and I felt a spirit there, and I said, if you're there, light it up. And it lit up to the second green with it being off. With the K2 shut off, and I asked the spirit, light it up, and it lit it up. Now that was creepy, I mean, again, if you want to, there's no way you can prove anything scientific about that situation. Um, and paranormal wise, was there a glitch in the K2? I don't know, but it lit up, and that kind of blew me away. I was happy it did, but yeah, so to me, the K2 meter is like one of the best meters going. But back to the suicide bridge. Um, it's just a fascinating place. Um, if you ever go to Gettysburg, make sure you take a trip there. And if you don't want to investigate, you don't have to. But if you just want to, at night, just walk the bridge and walk the little path that goes down, and open your senses, open your ears, open your eyes, open your nose, because there's a sense of smell, whatever, and see if you experience anything about that up there. um, I'm looking forward to going back this year. I do have trail cams that I do want to set up there and see what I could pick up. So I didn't know about the suicide bridge until I went up the last time. People told me all about it, and I was impressed. Totally, totally impressed about it. So, here it goes. My earphones. Got to get a new pair. Don't want to poke my ear out. But hi, Joe. Everybody, this is Joe Montaldo. He is my producer.
It's like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Am I boring you, huh?
No one asked me. I just went to click to come see what you were doing, and it just started popping me in and out real quick. Sorry, people did not mean to.
Oh, listen, brother, that's okay. You can pop in anytime you want. That's not a problem. But so yeah, that's what's going. I'm looking forward to setting up the cameras up there at the suicide bridge, and maybe we'll pick up some good evidence or not. We'll see. So when I do that, I will definitely would share it on there to you guys whenever that happens, which will be later on in the future whenever I get up there. I don't know about you, but in my part of the world, it is cold. It is snowing. Will the snow ever end? Will it become sunny again? I mean, we're sitting at 39 right now. Yeah, 39 degrees outside, and I think it's going to be cold tomorrow. So I want to touch a little bit. Oh, one more place I wanted to talk about was Sachs Covered Bridge. And I've been, the first time I went up there, which was a long time ago. And every time I went up, I am so drawn to that bridge. Now, a story behind that bridge, there's a couple that there were 3 Confederate soldiers that were hung on that bridge, either for, what was it, dereliction of duty, or say they were spies for, the Union Army. But who knows what they did, but they were hung there, and I had many, many, many experiences up there, many experiences. I know for a fact that there is one ghost up there, and the boy's from Tennessee, and he likes to show off, especially when there's a crowd. When there's a crowd, he likes to show off. We were up there one time, and a friend of mine built me a K2 quad box, which had 4 K2s in it. It was pretty cool. And I set it down. Now, this is like in the summertime when there was a lot of people there and it was warm up. And I set it on the bridge and I started talking to him, and it would light up, whatever, it was set to where, when you point a K2 meter straight ahead, that spirit's got to be right in front of you, or close to the side of you, to where this setup I had was whatever side that spirit was on, it would hit. And I call him Tennessee. And I remember the one night we were out there and it was like going off, kept asking questions. And the more people that came over to look at the box going off, he was responding on not on command. I'm just saying, I asked him a question, he's lighting it up because there was a crowd there. And what I would do for him, before I would leave, but real quick, back to the story. I'm moving ahead of myself, but back to the story. Some lady, honest to God, thought I was using the remote control on it. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not. So I pulled my hands out and I was like, here, and the guy from Tennessee, the soldier from Tennessee, he was just like lighting up the K2, and it kind of freaked her out, and she grabbed her children and went walking away. But so what I would do, when I first went up there and I was starting to talk to him, I had asked him, I said, do you want a cigarette? And he would light it up. And so what I would do every time I went up there is I would put just a cigarette down and one match, so he could have his cigarette, and believe it or not, Constance down at Prospect Place. That's another story for another day. But being on so many investigations and being in so many places, that are haunted, you kind of do make friends as ghosts. Okay, they know you're coming and they're happy to see you. And with the boy up there, the soldier up there from Tennessee, as long as I gave him that cigarette, he was okay. He was happy. But I will tell you this though, that night that we were on there and all these people were watching, the soldier just lighting up the K2s, everybody, left and had to go their own way and do their own thing. Then he quit talking because nobody was around, so he's a little bit of a showboat kind of dude. But if you ever get to Gettysburg, the 2 places that I highly recommend that you go to are the Sachs Cover Bridge and the John Eisenhower Bridge, which is considered a suicide bridge. Now, before I close, I got about 5 minutes going. About 5 more minutes. On the bottom of the screen, if you can read it, it says, "Into the night with Werewolf Hunter Shawn the Silver Bullet Man Kelly. Okay, for everybody out there, I don't hunt werewolves. Okay, I don't, and um, I do collect silver, but I would never make a bullet out of them. You know, I just wanted to tell you that I'm a good person, and hell, the only thing I'll kill are ants and not even spiders. I like spiders, but I just want you to know that I'm okay. I'm pretty cool, as you can tell. Werewolves, big, powerful, and um, I'm not. So I just want you to know that I'm pretty cool. And do I believe in werewolves? I don't know. Um, from what I have experienced in the last 2 years of working on the radio, a possibility can. Now, there is a cryptid out there called the Dog Man, who is similar to a werewolf, but from what I understand, is that he's a lot skinnier, you know, but he has the face and I guess the features of a dog. But you know what? Who knows what's out there in this world? And there's so much more for us to find out what's going on out there. Could there be vampires? I guarantee it. There are vampires out there, werewolves, Um, there's possibility there could be zombies. That's a question I like to think about. I want you guys to think about. Next week I'll bring up the question. Do you think there's going to be a zombie apocalypse? Just throwing that out there. I just want to get people's reactions on what you think. But I don't know. I had a good hour here. We had a good show on Chasing Prophecy. I had my crew, Pittsburgh Paranormal Society owner. I had Val, Russ, and Jason was there, and me. And we had a good show. So, in about 3 more minutes, I'm about to close off here. But I just want to, wish everybody a good evening, and I hope that you have a wonderful day tomorrow, if tomorrow comes, because we're not guaranteed that. All we are is guaranteed to be in for today. And children, and I say this every week, children, please go up and give your parents a hug and tell them you love them. Thanks, Shawn. Thanks, Ho. And parents, please give your kids a hug and tell them you love them. It goes a long way. It really does. If you don't say a word to your spouse or your children, whatever, but you just say those 3 words, I love you. It's not hard. It really isn't hard to say. Do it, because it will change your life. It really does. It changes my life. I have no problem saying I love you, especially to my son, because before he was born, I made a promise to God and I made a promise to him. I said, you know what? I'm going to tell my son that I love him every day. And I did, And what was amazing was that when he became a teenager and I dropped him off at a friend's house, in front of his friends, he said, I love you, Dad. Now, to me, that's a miracle. That felt really nice. And I remember one time I called him, he was like 10 or 11 years old, and we hung up. And then he called me back right away, and I said, what's up? He said, you forgot to tell me that you love me. And I was like, oh, man, I'm sorry. And told him I love him, and he told me he loved me, and it was cool, So those 3 words, I love you. It's all you need. That's all you need to say. And I want to wish everybody a good evening and happy hunting. Thank you. I'm just waiting for Joe.